Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ruben Alvarez, and I have the honor of serving as the Chief Executive Officer of Latino Leaders Network, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you. For those of you unfamiliar with Latino Leaders Network, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization established over 21 years ago with the primary focus and dedication to bringing leaders together so we could share our stories, develop relationships, and build unity. Our events provide an opportunity for public officials, business, and community leaders to convene, network, and celebrate individuals who are committed to uplifting our community. We host events throughout the year, and because of the support of our sponsors, there's no cost for our guests to attend. However, if you enjoyed today's event, I encourage you to please consider becoming a member of our organization. Your support will help sustain our efforts to continue to highlight and recognize the accomplishments of our outstanding leaders, such as today's honorees. To become a member, simply scan the QR code that is printed on the back of today's program, where you will find more information about becoming a member. I want to thank the individuals that are on the screen, our honor roll members, who are current members of our organization and who are here with us today. Thank you for your support. Lastly, I want to thank the members of the local host committee, also listed on the screen, for helping us organize today's event. Austin, you showed up, and thank you very much. We have a great program for you, so please help me welcome the founder and chairman of Latino Leaders Network, the Honorable Mickey Ibarra, who will serve as our host.
Thank you, Ruben, for helping us start on time. As your host today, it is my responsibility to ensure we end on time, respecting everybody's time. With the support of our speakers and guests, that means all of you, we will conclude today's luncheon by 2 p.m. Nearly 2 years ago in Washington, D.C., I announced the appointment of Ruben Alvarez as the first Chief Executive Officer of the Latino Leaders Network. He and his team at Molera Alvarez in Phoenix have done an outstanding job of providing additional leadership and staff capacity to ensure the continued success of the Latino Leaders Network. We are delighted to convene this 75th event of the Latino Leaders Luncheon Series. The first time in Austin, Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you for being with us. Now please join me in welcoming our honorees. John Quiñones of San Antonio, keynote speaker. John. Who will also receive our Eagle Leadership Award, our highest honor. And in addition, Texas State Senator Carol Alvarado of Houston. They have been joined at the head table by my dear friend, Austin Mayor Kurt Watson and Mayor Pro Tem Vanessa Fuentes. Please. We start every luncheon with prayer. The Most Reverend Daniel E. Garza, Bishop of Austin, will offer a blessing.
Might we all bow our heads, asking for God's blessing this day. God of all goodness, we come before you today seeking your blessing upon each and every person who are gathered here. We seek your enlightenment and wisdom in our respective work and service, and in particular for the work of the Latino Leaders Network. Bless us in our attempt to empower and lift people up, as well as to recognize those in our community who are examples of hope and joy for so many in our world today. Today especially, we ask your blessing upon our honorees, Mr. John Quiñones and Senator Carol Alvarado. Thank you for assisting them to be the persons they have become and for the insight and wisdom they have shared with so many people that they have encountered along life's journey. Bless them today as well as in the days ahead. And bless our time together. Bless our food that has been prepared for us, and bless those who have prepared it. As we share food and drink at this table, let us never forget our sisters and brothers who are without food, drink, and shelter. May we never stop seeking to alleviate the challenges and struggles that others experience. And we ask this in God's name. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop. It is amazing to look out at this audience. Boy, we are full. We love that. The mission of the Latino Leaders Network is bringing leaders together. And with over 300 guests registered to attend, we appreciate your support. And while every guest in this room is worthy of recognition in their own right, I want to acknowledge several board members and a few special guests before we continue with the program. First, the Latino Leaders Network board members. There are two additions in addition to Ruben and I that include Leticia Van de Putte of San Antonio. Leticia. And we also have Rudy Becerra of Albuquerque and Atlanta. Rudy Becerra. And by the way, both Rudy Becerra and Leticia Van de Putte are former recipients of our Eagle Leadership Award. And they're not alone. We have some additional past honorees in the room. I'd like them to stand and take a look at the names on the big screen. I believe there are 6. I see Ron here. Ron, I saw Charlie Gonzalez earlier. Please thank them once again for their leadership. Yes, thank you. Alfredo Corchado, thank you for being with us. Journalist, author, and a former recipient of our Eagle Leadership Award in Houston. I believe that was 2018. Okay, very good. We are also pleased to be joined by a host of elected and appointed officials and community leaders today. See their names displayed on our monitors as well. Please join me in thanking all of them for their presence. Both Mayor Watson and Mayor Pro Tem Fuentes took a break from their city council meeting. Good news is it's just down the way, so it's close by to be with us, and we're grateful. Mayor Kurt Watson, recipient of the Antonio Villaraigosa Leadership Award at our recent Tribute to Mayors in Tampa during the United States Conference of Mayors summer meeting, will now offer greetings. First, let me share that Mayor Watson was serving his first term as mayor in 1997 when I joined the White House as assistant to the president and director of intergovernmental affairs, giving me the tremendous opportunity to work closely with Mayor Watson. Delighted the city of Austin continues to benefit from his outstanding leadership. Please welcome the Honorable Kirk Watson for greetings.
Well, I'll start with the greetings. Isn't it a great day to be in Austin, Texas? I am so pleased I get to be here, and I'm very excited that the Latino Leaders Network is in Austin, and I'm very excited, as Mickey indicated, that Austin has turned out and really made this an exciting event. I'm also very happy to get to say greetings when I get to be with some of my great friends. Carol Alvarado, who will receive one of the awards today. Of course, I had the opportunity to serve with her in the Texas Senate, but as Mickey indicated, I was mayor one time before, and the last time I was mayor, back in 97 to 2001, Carol was actually the president of the Texas Municipal League back during that period of time, and so we go way, way back. And of course, Leticia Van de Putte is such a dear, good friend, but I also see the dean of the Texas Senate, Judith Zaffarini, is here with us. And Jose Menendez, I saw him from the Texas Senate a minute ago. Yeah, there he is, sitting next to Charlie Gonzalez. And our senator from Travis County, Sarah Eckhart, sitting next to Donna Howard from one of our Travis County. And there's Cheryl Cole. So I probably shouldn't get started doing that. I'll get myself in big trouble. Let me say this, though, real quickly about, he's right, Mickey's right. The Mayor Pro Tem and I, and we're also joined by Councilmember Jose Velasquez, who's here with us. He's over here. The three of us snuck off, so we're not going to be able to stay with you. The Mayor Pro Tem, when I'm not on the dais, typically it's the Mayor Pro Tem that has the gavel, but we both wanted to be here. So our dear friend, Councilmember Chito Vela, is holding the gavel right now. And so we're going to run back. But what I also want to start off by saying is I want to say a deep thank you to Mickey Ibarra. He just told you a little bit of history. When I was mayor the first time, he was in the Clinton White House. If you ever travel out of Austin Bergstrom International Airport, there's a history there that Mickey and I have. First of all, he helped with all intergovernmental relations. And so he helped me on a million different things. But one of the big things he did was he made sure that the first passenger aircraft to land at Austin Bergstrom International Airport was Air Force One. And so he really helped us out on that. Look, I'm going to keep you all on time. I just want to say welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the Latino Leaders Network. It is a very important organization that does great work. And the last thing I'll say is I'm so excited today. I'll just come right out and say it. If you're visiting the town and you've driven here or you've rented a car and you're out looking at something in the town, you're doing something and you get a parking ticket, as mayor, let me say, pay it. We've got a tax rate election coming up and we need all the money we can get. God bless you all. Welcome to Austin, Texas, and thank you, Austin, for showing up.
That's a mayor with a sense of humor. I love it. We are also proud to be joined by Mayor Pro Tem Vanessa Fuentes, a member of the Austin City Council since 2021. Born and raised in Central Texas to an immigrant mother from Mexico and military veteran father, she understands the unique challenges of our community. Please welcome the Mayor Pro Tem of Austin for special guest remarks, Vanessa Fuentes. Vanessa?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. How are y'all doing? My name is Vanessa Fuentes, proud to serve as Austin's Mayor Pro Tem, proud to be a Latina serving on Austin City Council. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month and bienvenidos a Austin. Today, the power of storytelling, resilience, and our Latinidad brings us together. Each one of us carries a story that is shaped by our strength, by our family, and by the drive to honor those who came before us and to build something better for those who will come after. For me, that story began just up the road when I walked into the Texas State Capitol as a young legislative aide. It was there where I had the honor and the privilege to watch then Senator Leticia Van de Pew in action, then State Representative Carol Alvarado, as well as now our Dean, Judith Zaffarini. That exposure to strong Latinas planted the seed in me. It would change my personal trajectory, and it showed me just how important it is to have representation, that visible representation, seeing strong leadership, compassionate leadership, and what it could do. Less than 10 years later, I would enter Austin City Hall, not as a staffer, but as an elected official. In fact, I became only the second ever Latina elected in our city's 180-year history. And that moment wasn't just mine. It belongs to my community, my family, and for every Latina who now sees herself reflected in local government. But the truth is, it's moments like these are increasingly at risk for future generations, which is why we need strong community partnerships. Real change doesn't happen in marble rooms alone. It happens when we root our work in service of our communities, when we co-create solutions alongside nonprofit leaders and small business owners and religious organizers and neighborhood advocates who know their communities best. These partnerships ensure that our policies reflect lived experiences and are not just data points. But let me be clear. Local leadership matters in profound ways. When I get it, our national headlines right now dominate the news cycle, but it's at the local level where policy meets pavement, where decisions about transit and parks and public safety directly shape our day-to-day life. City councils and school boards and county commissions, these are arenas where we can deliver real and immediate impact for our familias. When Latinos lead locally, we don't just occupy seats, we shift paradigms and we ensure that our community's needs are foundational priorities. Am I right? So whether it's using storytelling to uplift immigrant narratives, ensuring that we have modern transit, or delivering on infrastructure that meets the moment, we cannot do it alone. Because one of the ways we can uplift our community is through stories, through truths, and the fierce, unwavering love that we carry for each other, nuestra gente. And that's how we build a future rooted in fairness, like here in Austin, where we are reconnecting our east and west sides by building deck plazas over I-35, the highway that was designed to divide communities of color. It also means building a public health facility in Dove Springs, a neighborhood that has experienced long-standing disinvestment. And it means partnering with women and minority-owned businesses for our historic airport expansion. And that's just some of the work that we're doing here at the City of Austin. So today, I look forward to hearing your stories, to celebrating our honorees, as well as connecting over our shared humanity. Welcome.
All right, all members of the City Council, down the way. Thank you, Mayor, and Vanessa also. And now, a word from our sponsors. The Latino Leaders Luncheon Series is made possible because of the generous support of good corporate partners. And we have an outstanding group of sponsors to thank today, both national and local. We are delighted to be joined by Chevron, today's premier sponsor. Julie Williams, State Government Affairs Manager, will deliver remarks. I also want to thank Henry Perea of Chevron in Sacramento for his outstanding support. Please welcome Julie to the podium for premier sponsor remarks.
So hi and welcome, everyone. First, I want to stop before I introduce myself again. Julie Williams, State Government Affairs Manager, Chevron. I want to stop for a minute. I want everyone who is an elected official to just please stand. I want to recognize everyone for the work that y'all do, and I want everyone to applaud, please, for the recognition of what they do. Thank you. And this is meaningful, not only to Chevron, but just for me as a person in what I've done throughout my career in Austin as a lobbyist, as a staffer at the Capitol. And it's truly an inspiration to see organizations like the Latino Leaders Network bring people together and bring them together to leverage the accomplishments of what the current leaders are doing today, like Carol Alvarado, Dean Zaffarini, Representative Morales, everyone who is doing that work is incredibly meaningful. And then it also paves the way for future leaders, which is so vitally important to what everyone in this room is doing and collectively throughout the states. So it's a privilege to be here today, celebrating the 21 years of service of this organization and the accomplishments that it does to bring leaders together. As Chevron, one of the commitments and missions that we have routinely throughout everything that we do is investing in the communities in which we operate, trying to give back and provide opportunity to lift others up equally and giving them those opportunities. So really proud today to recognize my dear colleague and friend, Carol Alvarado, who I met when she was a state representative. And really, Carol, I am so proud of you, and I'm proud of everything you've done and continue to do throughout the legislature and your leadership in the Democratic Caucus, Senate Democratic Caucus, everything that you have done. You are an inspiration to me and a role model to me as I think to how I can be a better leader. So thank you so much. But first of all, I do want to thank again all of the local, state, and federal leaders here today, the community partnerships, and the corporations and private sector who are invested in uplifting the communities of today and tomorrow. So thank you so much for letting me be here. We're a proud sponsor, and thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you.
A second national sponsor that we're so proud to stand with today, our co-sponsor is Bank of America, an outstanding partner for over a decade. Grateful to Angie Lathrop, our champion in Washington, D.C., Carla Molina, Senior Vice President, External Communications Executive, will deliver co-sponsor remarks. Please welcome Carla.
Hi, everyone. Buenas tardes. Buen provecho. It's a privilege to be with all of you today. On behalf of Bank of America, I'd like to thank the Latino Leaders Network founder and chairman, Mickey Ibarra, as well as CEO Ruben Alvarez, for hosting today's luncheon and for all the incredible work they do for this organization and for our community. It's great to have you and everyone in Austin today. I'm proud to say that Bank of America, and you heard Mickey say this earlier, and the Latino Leaders Network have been working together for over 10 years to share leadership expertise, provide educational programming, and offer networking opportunities. It's relationships like this that are a true testament of our commitment to the Latino community, which runs long-standing and deep. Bank of America has relationships with more than 15 million Latinos across the United States, and of those, 1.4 million or more are business owners. We recognize that small businesses are the backbone of local economies. For 17 consecutive quarters, Bank of America is the #1 lender to small businesses in the country, and we're the top lender to and largest investor to CDFIs. I would be remiss if I didn't wish everyone a happy Hispanic Heritage Month before walking away. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month to everybody. It's exciting to see so many faces that are in here committed to continuing to inspire our community, to educate, and to propel everyone forward. So thank you so much.
And now our final sponsor speaker, the official airline of the Latino Leaders Network, Southwest Airlines. We are delighted to welcome Melanie O'Brien, Community Engagement Regional Manager, for remarks. We love Southwest Airlines.
Thank you, Mickey, for that wonderful introduction. I'm Melanie O'Brien, Community Engagement Regional Manager with Southwest Airlines, and just want to welcome you to Texas. I took a hop, skip, and a jump on a plane here from Dallas, so just happy that everyone's here in Austin today. Through our long-standing partnership with the Latino Leaders Network, we've seen firsthand how the power of celebrating Latino leaders can inspire the next generation. It is an honor for Southwest Airlines to support this historic 75th Latino Leaders Luncheon, the first time in more than 2 decades that it's been being held here in Austin. Today, we celebrate 2 incredible honorees, John Quiñones and Senator Carol Alvarado, whose stories remind us what true leadership looks like. At Southwest Airlines, we believe leadership is about people. True leadership is about inspiring, serving, fostering belonging, and caring about people. Both of today's honorees embody these values and set an example for all of us. Congratulations to the Latino Leaders Network on this milestone, and thank you for allowing Southwest Airlines to be part of such an important celebration. We look forward to continuing to connect people to what matters most and to honoring leaders who light the way for future generations. Thank you.
Before I move on, I want to make a special recognition right now. My road to the White House in 1997 was largely paved by the National Education Association, NEA. You see, I started my professional career nearly 50 years ago at the top as a teacher of at-risk high school students. Some argue I've been working my way down ever since. And we have 2 terrific leaders with us from the NEA family that I'd like to acknowledge. We have the Secretary-Treasurer, the 3rd highest ranking elected position within the 3 million member NEA with us today, and right here, lives right here in Austin, Noel Candelaria. Noel? And by the way, Noel's the first Latino ever to win that office. And he's not done yet. I know he's not done yet. So thank you, Noel, for joining us. And also, the president of the NEA affiliate, the Texas State Teachers Association, Ovidia Molina, please stand and receive our acknowledgement. Now, we all enjoyed the network reception. Courtesy of Waste Management, I want to thank Alex Osiguerra for waste management support, headquartered down the street there in Houston. Also, did you enjoy the mariachi entertainment? The mariachis from the University of Texas, wish to thank them as well. We're also grateful for the many VIP table sponsors in the room today. Please take a look at their logos and keep that slide up long enough to where we can give them some recognition. Those are our VIP table sponsors. Please thank them for us. Now for a short video. How many of you are attending a Latino Leaders Network event for the very first time? Would you raise your hands? Wow, that's a lot of first-timers. But I hope you won't be last-timers. First-timers. And we'd like to share a short 2-minute video that talks a little bit about who we are, the Latino Leaders Network, okay? About every 90 days, all the leaders in this room and across the country, we need to come together. Our personal stories unite us. They remind us of our responsibility to be good to each other.
We grew up with a mother who instilled in us this sense that we could achieve, that we should dream big, and that people of all different backgrounds had something to contribute to the forward progress of our nation.
Telling our stories is an important community and public service, and now these stories are compiled in one book, Latino Leaders Speak. Now is the time to make sure we get this book into everyone's hands who can share it with a young person. Make sure that it is accessible in every network that we have so that generations will have this for years to come.
More and more of America's school children are Latino, 25% nationwide and growing fast. There is a need for Latino role models, inspiring heroes, and outstanding leaders in the classroom. The Latino Leaders Network and the California Global Education Project have partnered to make a unique curriculum guide. It will engage students to learn about the powerful stories of Latino leaders in contemporary society.
These stories inspire us to be better members of our community, of our nation, and the world.
Our goal is to inspire the next generation of leaders from high school to early college.
Help us get the word out to educators. Let them know of this valuable new resource. Urge them to get it into our classrooms, and it's all free of charge.
Those who are Latino, those of you who might be Latino curious, and everybody else, these convenings have fulfilled a role in our lives.
You know, others may try to tear us down. What we need to be dedicated to is building each other up. Don't you agree? Each of you have been provided a complimentary copy of our book, Latino Leaders Speak, Personal Stories of Struggle and Triumph. This is made possible through the courtesy of Valero, our book sponsor. So please thank Valero, our book sponsor. I'm pleased to also share that our publisher, Arte Publico Press at the University of Houston, will release Volume 2 of Latino Leaders Speak at the end of the year, with 26 additional keynote remarks delivered during the Luncheon series. We're joined today by the new director of Arte Publico Press, Gabby Baeza Ventura, and I'd like her to stand and be recognized too, our publisher. We love you. By the way, the book you have is now in its 3rd printing. That's kind of a big deal in the publishing business. 2017, and again, the actual date, but we won't hold you to it, Gabby, but the actual publishing date is November 30th. Yes. Maybe we should come back to Austin on a book tour. What do you think? The Chairman's Award. I love this award because I get to pick it. Periodically at this event, we present the Chairman's Award. The award has been presented only 15 times previously. We're in our 21st year. This award has been presented only 15 times previously. Today we honor Carol Alvarado, Texas State Senator of Houston. The Honorable Leticia Van de Putte, who served in the Texas State Legislature for over 2 decades, has agreed to deliver the honorary tribute. Please welcome Leticia, a 2006 recipient of our Eagle Leadership Award, for the tribute.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Doesn't it give you joy to be in this room right now in Austin for Hispanic Heritage Month? Isn't it? Thank you for your presence today. And I want to say a special thank you to my fellow board members of Latino Leaders Network. It took me a while to convince you to come back to Texas, and I kept telling them Austin is the place, so thank you very much. And although we are Houston honoring Carol, there's a lot of Austin, but I want you to know my hometown and the hometown of our Eagle Award recipient, John Quiñones. There are San Antonio people here too. And I want to say congratulations and thank you, my city councilwoman, Councilwoman Marina Alderete Gavito, who came in from San Antonio to be here today. And I can't forget, right, those of us that are Latina moms, or as my son likes to say, we always get Mexican mommed, you know. My son, who is now an Austin resident and one of our sponsors today, Henry Van de Putte, president of Meals on Wheels. Thank you, son. I first met Carol Alvarado when she was working in the city offices of then Mayor Lee. And then she did a fantastic job for our Congressman Gene Green. Houston East End girl. Never, ever forget her beginnings, her background. And we are so thankful to have so many of your family members here. And it brings me almost to tears to see your mom here. Señora Alvarado, gracias. Gracias por estar aquí. Y gracias por la vida de su hija, mi gran amiga, Carol Alvarado. Gracias. And after city council, she was at city council, and Carol always was in leadership roles. If it was a staff, she was the lead staff. If she was on city council, you heard she was president of TML. When she got to the state legislature, she mastered the art of personal relationships. You see, in a heavily dominated, a Democrat, we know firsthand you've got to reach across the aisle and work with your colleagues to move forward policies that benefit your constituents, our gente, and you always did. I was so glad when you succeeded our good friend, Senator Sylvia Garcia, as she went to Congress, and I think it's 2018, and came to the Texas Senate. There, you had a special madrina, Dean Zaffarini, to show you the way, and good friends like Senator Menendez and others, Senator Eckhart, who's here today. But you always shine, Carol. You know, one of the things that I know about you is that you convene people and you connect, and it's about gathering everybody to solve problems, to come forth. Our new Bishop of Austin, Bishop Garcia, you mentioned this in your own, how we need to continue to work together because there are so many challenges facing our communities. Carol has been a leader her whole life. Carol has been a friend. She's a woman of faith. Many of you may not know she begins every legislative session before she steps to take that oath of office, she's with her priest and her family and her staff and friends to ask God's grace as she continues, as she walks into the state capitol every day. But she's got a sharp mind. Those of you who know, she's got that sharp mind, and several of my now colleague lobbyists know that. But she's got the fierce heart. But what I love about her is the Latina look. Okay, all Latinas in this room, you know what I'm talking about, and the men who love us know exactly what we're talking about. You know that look where you kind of raise one eyebrow and you go, and then you know it's over. I've seen Carol use that on occasion, and usually people start squirming. It's that Latina look, right? But she always makes sure that the voices are heard. I'm so proud of her, and I think about the bridges that she's crossed and the people that she brings together from diverse communities. And I think about the words of Dolly Parton. If your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, then you are an excellent leader. Please welcome my friend, Senator Carol Alvarado, an excellent leader.
I'd like to invite Rudy Becerra to come forward too. Rudy on our board too, so we have this photo of Carol accepting the Chairman's Award with our board members. No shaking hands, Rudy, get up here. Right over here, Rudy.
Thank you. I was going to say good morning. It's good afternoon. Leticia, thank you for that beautiful, heartfelt introduction. And let me just say, the other madrina, you and Senator Zaffirini, wow, those are some powerful madrinas to have on your side. Senator Zaffirini, I know it took a lot for you to get down here to drive from Laredo, and thank you so much for being here. I also think she deserves that. Our first Latina dean of the Texas Senate. I also want to ask, I know elected officials were asked to stand earlier, but I would like every member of the Texas legislature, House and Senate, to please stand up once again, because they deserve a big round of applause. In case y'all missed it, they made a few headlines this year. And I am just so happy to see all of them. Boy, y'all might have heard that earlier this month I tried to do a filibuster, and unfortunately it was shut down. Cabrones. Anyway, you know, I was just thinking, if y'all don't mind, we are in Austin. I've got a captive audience. We're not too far from the Capitol. I've already gone to the bathroom. Representative Busey, can you lock the door, make sure nobody gets out? I've got my comadre over here, Rep. Morales. She'll make sure y'all sit tight. And we've got a full afternoon. So I thought I could maybe bring back that filibuster. What can I say about Mickey Ibarra and Latino Leaders Network? Oh boy, Mickey and I fostered such a long-lasting friendship when he worked in the White House for President Clinton. And I'm honored to be a friend of his, and then to see Ruben and coming up in this organization. Mickey had the best job in the White House. He was the liaison to mayors and governors, and we have remain steadfast friends. And Mickey, I love you. You're such a special person, not just to me, but I know so many here. And wow, to share the stage and the spotlight with John Quiñones. Woo, dream come true, such a fan. My family loves you. My mom, as soon as I told her that you were gonna be here, she said, "What would you do, the TV show?" I said, "That's it, that's it." And John and I have realized that we are probably related because we have some common relatives amongst us. And we talked about it last night, and we are family. Somos familia, right, John? Okay. John, thank you. You've paved the way for so many Latino journalists. And so many of us, you were that face. You were that one Latino on national news that we got to see, and it meant something to us. So thank you. The stories of the Latino community are so vital to shared experiences that make our community strong. We've all heard the old adage that knowledge is power. Well, our stories provide us with knowledge, and they add to our power, nuestra poder. As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, I can't stress enough the importance, Mickey, of having this event right here today in Austin, Texas. Because Texas is the home to the second largest Latino population in the country. We are all over the place, and we're talking about being related. I'm sure you'll discover a long-lost primo, but as my mentor, Leticia Vandeputte, said, that there are so many of us, and our birth rate is so high, and this is her saying this, not me. She said, because we are sexier and prettier. I'm still laughing at that. Latino communities across our country, we've been tested as stress, uncertainty, and disruptive times engulf our everyday lives. Shoot, 3 weeks ago, ICE was in my neighborhood. They were in front of my sister Yolanda's house at 6 o'clock in the morning. I've never seen anything like that. She went out there in her robe and was questioning what they were doing, and I guess she was such a distraction. They had 4 Mexicanos in the van, and while she was talking to them, they opened the van and they ran out. And she said that the ICE guy, that he was pretty large, so he could not run after them. So, way to go, sister. Oh my gosh, mass deportations, tariffs that threaten business and commerce at home with our relationships to our neighbors in the South. You know, it wasn't that long ago that Texas bragged about our diversity, and now diversity's like a 4-letter word. While this period in American history, now some might call it the Trump era, I think our community, we need our own recognition. So I'm going to call it right here today, the age of Ay Dios mío. Today is very special, not only to receive this award, but what makes it extra special is to have my 97-year young mom right here. Yeah. And my brothers and sisters and their spouses are here too, an extended family. They don't always get to make these events because they're held during the workday. But they made the trip. And thank y'all because you've made this the best. Thank you so much. You know, I owe what I am because of my parents. My dad had a third grade education and he taught himself to read, but he was a hard worker. He was a cement mason and he poured concrete and foundation for some of our big buildings in Houston. And that hard work ethic, that gave me, I think, the tools to be an effective legislator, family member, and mentor, hopefully, to some. I keep coming back to the importance of telling our stories. And there is one family, I want to end on a good note here. There's a family, the Garza family, that told their story on the back of some potato chips, tortilla chips. The founder, Veronica Garza, her grandparents were Tony and Alicia Campos, my constituents from Baytown. Tony and Alicia, they lived to see their brand of chips, Siete, take off. And they just sold to PepsiCo. Sorry, Rudy. Coca-Cola didn't snag them up. But they sold for $1.2 billion. So, let's keep telling our stories. Mickey, keep convening us to share our stories. John, keep writing and telling our stories. And I will continue to work to improve our stories. Thank you so much. God bless you and God bless Texas.
I'll tell you this, I always want Carol Alvarado in my foxhole. Now for the presentation of the Eagle Leadership Award. We'd like to start by offering a brief video tribute to John Quiñones.
We begin at Cape Canaveral with ABC's John Quiñones.
ABC's John Quiñones.
And John Quiñones' award-winning report.
ABC anchor John Quiñones.
We here at Primetime have watched John Quiñones go to many exotic locations over the years, but we and you have never seen anything quite like this.
The thing about John is that he's kind of a walking embodiment of the American dream. He grew up as a kid speaking only Spanish in San Antonio, went to school, didn't understand what any of the other kids were saying. But, you know, today he's a network TV news star. He did that by working incredibly hard. And along the way, he never forgot where he came from.
When he talks to you, you know he's listening. You know when someone says, hey, I'm a big fan, can I meet you? Can I take a picture with you? Can my whole family take a picture with you? He's taught me a lot about that, to remember where you came from and remember what could be the alternative.
He connects with people because he's been in all those shoes. He's been in the shoes of a worker who's been picking tomatoes in a field in Michigan, and he's also been in the shoes of a guy who's just got an upgrade to a suite at the Four Seasons in LA. There's a lot of things that happen to you in your childhood that form who you become as an adult.
And I remember when he got his first apartment in Manhattan, he brought me to the view and he said, look at this. And he said, you know, he was looking, there was lights and you know, just the city. And he said, I never thought I would see this. And I never thought that we would have this as a family.
John Quiñones is an Hispanic journalist who is not solely defined as one, but informed by his heritage, rich in tradition, family, and friendship.
He always looks out for the little guy. Whoever doesn't have a voice, he tries to give a voice to.
Every time one of India's neighbors suffers from flood, famine, or war, another wave of refugees
washes up on Calcutta's pavements. He always finds a way to connect with somebody and make the issue very personal. And that comes from years of traveling the world and talking to people that were from all kinds of different nationalities and backgrounds and walks of life.
It's a place where the expectancy of life is below 40, where probably 8 out of 10 people are out of work.
I think his best stories throughout the years have always been the ones where he is exposing something that people don't often know about and wouldn't know about unless he took them there.
169 years after slavery was abolished here, they are a people still trapped in a world of servitude. That's just what John does best, mixing it up with those who are struggling, giving voice to those who have none.
You get 70 cents for filling that sack.
Do you envy the people in that train?
Oh, not at all. They value things that are not important to me.
So the question is, what would you do?
Most everything that you see on television has been tried before, except what would you do?
That's him.
They brought heart to reality television, and I think that's something that people still don't see. I think it's something that is very rare. What I find interesting about What Would You Do is it's not about anything scripted. There's nothing, it's one of the only reality TV shows that is in fact reality because it's about people.
Does she look American? Does she look American?
Oh, heaven forbid.
I think everybody that watches the show can find something that they can relate to, either directly or indirectly to them at some point in time. And they like watching that and thinking that, you know, I'm not alone in this. There's other people that might be going through the same issues that I'm going through.
A lot of people are afraid to speak up.
Fear can stop you from doing a lot of things, but it should never stop you from doing the right thing.
People see in him, you know, a different face than everything you see when you're flipping through NBC, CBS, ABC. I mean, Latinos aren't really well represented in the media.
It's a long way from Spanish Harlem.
Yeah. The thing that's so great about John is that he's still the guy I met 30 plus years ago. He's still a sweetheart. He still cares about ordinary people. He's still the nicest guy. He's still a great friend and a great father. And he's never forgotten where he came from. I don't think he ever will.
I'm proud to call John my friend and delighted you have chosen to recognize his lifetime achievements.
He loves to do what he does and will continue to do that for his whole life. And I don't see retirement as an option for him. I think he's a lifer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome 8 National Emmy Award winner, journalist John Quiñones to deliver keynote remarks followed by the presentation of our Eagle Leadership Award. John?
Oh, man, thank you. Wow. Wow, thank you. Woo. Wow. Oh, man. Thank you, thank you. And Aida Alvarado, thank you for watching What Would You Do? Gracias. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be back in my home state of Texas. You know? I'm incredibly honored, very humbled to be receiving the Eagle Leadership Award, and very happy to be sharing the day with with my wife who's here, Diana Quiñones. My number one fan. She keeps pushing me to do more and more of those true crime 2020 stories. And I'm beginning to worry that she's taking notes. And, you know, when Mickey and Rudy Becerra, my good friend, told me that they would be nominating me several months ago in New Orleans, where we were, I really thought they were kidding. And it was like, I didn't believe it. What a privilege to be joining the ranks of all those other distinguished recipients who have come before me, including my dear friend and tremendous legendary journalist Alfredo Corchado, who is here tonight, this afternoon. And of course, former Senator Leticia Van Depute, former Congressman Charlie Gonzalez, my good friend, and my great friend Rudy Becerra, as I mentioned. You know, in my core, I'm a reporter. I'm a storyteller. That's all I ever wanted to do, ever since I was 13 years old. And the thing that I love about journalism and my profession is that as a journalist, I get to shine a light on a lot of issues that people don't want to talk about, they don't want to hear about, they don't want to see. Stories like the Uvalde school shootings, where we spent a year covering that story. The story of Vanessa Guillen, which I'm now reporting on a 6-part podcast for ABC News. Stories about social dilemmas, like the ones we do on What Would You Do? And these are tough times for journalists. I hate to say it, but these are difficult, in fact, dangerous times for reporters. It's getting more and more risky to speak truth to power. But that's why I created, even a few years ago, What Would You Do? Because 17 years ago, actually, now, because I wanted to hold up a mirror to American society. We wanted to know, how do you unlock the power and the light that exists in each and every one of us so that we're all better equipped to say, hey, that's wrong, or how can I lend a helping hand? And what better tool to do that with than with hidden cameras on national television, right? What Would You Do, this little show that we started, poses that very question. When you witness any kind of injustice, racism, bullying, gay bashing, spousal abuse, someone being ridiculed because of the color of their skin or the accent in their voice, and that little voice, or condemned because of the religion they practice, and the little voice in the back of your head says, do something, do you step in or do you step away? What would you do? I mean, after all, isn't that the very definition of a person's character? It's not what we do when everyone's watching, that's easy. It's what we do even when no one is watching. Silence should not be an option. Silence is complicity. We have to raise our voices today more than ever because these are troubled, divisive times in this country. I've never seen our nation as divided as it is today. And I grew up during the civil rights movements in San Antonio back in the 60s and 70s. We are so brittle these days with anger that's fueled by ugly rhetoric and violence. Just witness what happened here in Texas yesterday at that ICE detention center in Dallas. This is a great diverse nation, a beautiful tapestry, a mosaic of different people and cultures, a nation of immigrants, right? For generations, we've been able to disagree about issues like politics, religion, sexuality, about an issue that's very close to me, immigration. But why can't we continue to do that with a bit of decency and respect? Whatever happened to that? When we created What Would You Do, we wanted to showcase the sense of goodness, understanding, compassion, I think that exists in every one of us. With this little fly on the wall, we get to see the goodness in people with this show, and it helps restore our faith in America. And after all these years of doing What Would You Do, I found that time and again, the people who step in and do the right thing, first of all, they're women. Women are better at it. You guys sound the alarm much quicker than we do. But the people who step in and sound the alarm about racism, bullying, gay bashing, spousal abuse, they are people who themselves have been marginalized, people who have been through it, right? They sound the alarm because they know what it's like. They know how painful it can be. And that's why, in many ways, I feel like I was destined to do a show like What Would You Do? Because of where I come from and the world that I grew up in. I was born in the barrio on the west side of San Antonio. And you know how some people say, we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor. We knew we were poor. We knew. We had an old black and white television on the back of the house, and we saw how the other side lived. My father was a janitor who dropped out of the 3rd grade, just like your dad, Carol, and my mother dropped out of the 4th grade to clean houses on the rich part of town, Alamo Heights. Charlie, you know Alamo Heights. And very well, because that's how divided and segregated our city was. We lived on the west side, and the better off folks had places like Alamo Heights. My mom was a house cleaner. I didn't speak English when I was 6 years old, and isn't that wild? Now I make my living writing and delivering the news in English. And when I was 6 years old, I didn't speak a word of English because in San Antonio, you didn't have to learn English. The church that we went through, St. Timothy's, was Catholic, it's Spanish. La Tiendita, where we bought our groceries, it was called La Chicanita. You know, I worked there when I was 8 years old. Is in Spanish. The music that we danced to and loved singing to is in Spanish. And this is before bilingual education. You know, in the 60s, my family couldn't afford preschool or kindergarten, my two sisters, Irma, Rosa Maria, and me. So we went straight to public school, like so many of us here, right? Straight to Carvajal Elementary in Mrs. Gregory's class. And I'll never forget being there in her class at 10 in the morning, twiddling my thumbs, because I couldn't understand what the teacher was saying. She didn't speak Spanish, and I didn't speak English. And at 10 in the morning, the school bell rings, and it's recess time. The kids all go out, right, to the playground. Where does little Juanito Quiñones, 6-year-old, go? I walked home. I lived a block away from the school, and I still remember going through my front door, and my dear mother, departed mother, Maria said, Juanito, ¿qué pasó? I said, se acabó, Mom, it's over. I love school. 2 hours, and you're done. Honest to God truth. She grabbed me by the ear and dragged me back to Mrs. Gregory's class because she knew the value of education, not having gotten one herself. They used to punish us for speaking Spanish at the Carvajal and at Rhodes Junior High. If the coach had a big old wooden paddle with holes drilled in it for extra speed and power, and they would give us 3 spankings on our rear ends if they caught us speaking Spanish. Do you know what that does to your appreciation of your own native tongue? It tells you that it's not good enough, right? But that's the world that we lived in. I tried to help my father and my mom because he made $50 a week as a janitor at Brackenridge High School, where I went to school. So I would shine shoes on Guadalupe Street. You know, me and my cousin Joey, we made a little shoe shine box. You know, I think Mi Tierra restaurant still has the box, you know, like a museum. We would shine shoes, and we'd go to the cantinas, the bars, because the drunk guys didn't realize how much they were tipping you. We made a killing con esos borrachos, you know. We charged just 10 cents a pair, but they were like, hey, here's $1. So we did well until I came home one night and we were jumped by a gang on the west side. My community was called El Ghost Town, and we got jumped by a gang from El Alto. So they took away all my shoe shine polishes and rags and my shoe shine box and my earnings from the night. And that was the end of my shoe shining career. But then when I was 13, my father was laid off from work. You know, he was a janitor at Brackenridge, but he was laid off that summer. And me and my 2 sisters and my mother, Maria, the 5 of us did what a lot of Latinos in South Texas had to do back then. We became migrant farm workers. You know, we journeyed 1,700 miles from San Antonio to Northport, Michigan, the cherry capital of the world, with strangers. We didn't know who these folks were. It was a caravan of workers. And I remember my mom, we didn't have much to eat, so she bought a gallon can of green beans and a couple of loaves of bread, and we survived on green bean sandwiches all the way up to Michigan. And there I was teetering on the top of these ladders, overlooking these orchards and orchards of cherry trees, and they would pay us with a bucket strapped around my neck, and they would pay us 75 cents for every bucket of cherries, and it would take me 2 darn hours to fill that, 2 hours for 75 cents. And then we did that for about 6 or 7 weeks, and then we do what all migrant farm workers do. We followed the crops down to Ohio, a little town outside Toledo called Swanton, Ohio, where we picked tomatoes for 35 cents a bushel. And man, with these hands, I did 100 bushels a day. That's $35, right? And my father would do 150 bushels, and my mother contributed, and my sisters contributed, and we learned the value of a family in times of difficulty, pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and getting over that financial hump. But I'll never forget being on my knees on the cold, hard ground at 6 in the morning with my father Bruno, looking at a row of tomato plants that for a young 13-year-old boy's eyes seemed to go on for miles and miles. That's what I had to look forward to that day of picking tomatoes. And my father Bruno saying, Juanito, mira, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Or maybe do you want to get a college education someday? It was a no-brainer. You know, I knew I didn't want to do that kind of back-breaking work on my knees for the rest of my life, but no one believed in me. When I came back to San Antonio, to Rhodes Junior High, I would ask my teachers, how do I prepare for the SATs? How do I start studying for the AC? I want to go to college someday. How do I take advanced placement classes in math, biology, or English? Do you know what my own teachers would tell me? They would say, Johnny, it's great that you want to be a television reporter. Because I want to be a reporter since I was 13. I used to watch Geraldo Rivera on 2020. He's the only one with a Latino last name, right? And they would say, it's great, John, that you have this dream that you want to be a TV reporter someday, but we think you should try wood shop or metal shop or auto mechanics. Not that there's anything wrong with those great trades. A lot of people make a good, hard living, but I wanted to go to college. And my own teachers and my own counselors would do what people do on that TV show, What Would You Do? They judged me by the color of my skin, the accent in my voice, the fact that no one in my family had gone to college, the fact that I didn't have great grades in junior high or high school, the fact that I didn't have any money to pay for college. They basically were asking, what gives you the audacity, John Quiñones, to think you're college material? Well, thank God for my mother, those Mexican women, my mother Maria. She was the one who would say, mijo, mira, mijo, my son, mijo, don't be embarrassed about having to wear the same clothes to school every other day. At least we wash them, right? They're clean clothes. She would say, mijo, don't be so embarrassed about having to take bean and tortilla tacos for lunch when all the other kids are taking their fancy bologna and white bread. Hey, now we know beans and tortillas are better for you, right? They have more protein. But Maria would say, what matters, mijo, is what's in here, in your cabeza, in your brain, mijo, and what's in here, in your corazón, in your heart. She was the one who kept me going. And I went to Brackenridge High School, and then along comes this government program called Upward Bound, right? And I was one of the Upward Bound students. Basically, they gave kids from the barrio extra courses on Saturdays and during the summer of my high school. Well, just what I had been asking for, how do I get better? Because the government knew that the schools were doing a terrible job of not preparing anyone for college in those neighborhoods. And I wound up going to St. Mary's University. I know we have some St. Mary's grads here. And got a job as a radio intern when I was 18. I was a drugstore delivery man at Blanco Pharmacies. The owner of the drugstore could hear me in the men's room practicing, because I would practice into a cassette recorder my delivery, right? Because typical Mexicano, I spoke really fast, and I would say, these are my shoes, this is my shirt. And nothing wrong, I love accents, but I knew that if I was going to be like my heroes, Peter Jennings, Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite, that I would have to get rid of my accent. So I did. I would practice. But the owner of the drugstore, Mr. Teniente, Richard Teniente, heard me, and he said, Johnny, I know the general, do you want to go into broadcasting? I was 18. I said, yeah. He goes, I know the general manager of a radio station here in San Antonio, and they're looking for interns. So he introduces me to them, and I got hired for $2 an hour as an intern when I was 18 years old. And you got to be from Texas to understand this. This audience would understand it. The disc jockeys, the guys who played music at the country music station, KKYX, had horses in the back of the studios that they would use in parades and public appearances, because they were like local celebrities. My job as an intern was to feed the horses and pile up the horse poop in the back of the corral. But at night, I would sneak into the control room where they had beautiful microphones and taped reel recorders, and I would practice and read whatever I could get my hands on. The only problem was it was midnight, and all the professionals who could criticize my work were gone for the day. The only one left was the janitor, and his name was Pablo Gonzalez. And Pablo's English was worse than my father's. But he was my critic. I would drag him into the control room and say, Pablo, listen, ¿cómo se oye? How does it sound? He would go, más o menos. And, it's pretty good, pretty good. Jesus Christ, that was it, man. And then they let me do the news and radio. This is the slow by slow step, The great Martin Luther King once said, in times of adversity, you got to have faith. And faith is taking that first step. Doesn't matter if you can't see the entire staircase. Just take the first step, right? Because tomorrow there'll be another step, and the next day another. My first step at that radio station was to do the news between 2 and 4 in the morning between all the country music station. And who the heck is listening at that hour? I think we had 4 listeners, my mother, my father, my 2 sisters. But that's how you do it, step by step. And from there, I got another job in Houston at KTRH Radio. And then no one would hire me in television. I'm really a message for the young people here. Don't give up. I can show you 70 letters of rejection that I got from every TV station in Texas. They wouldn't hire me because I didn't have any television experience. I was a radio reporter, had a nice voice, but that was it. And they also would say, we already have a Latino. We don't need another one. And it was so depressing that I wound up having to go, I was going to give up journalism and go to try to get into law school at the University of Houston. But instead, I wound up applying to Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism, and I got hired. I got accepted to the program in New York, and I got a master's in journalism. And then I went to Chicago. I got my first TV job there, where I did a story that I wanted to do for a long time. I was only 26 years old as a local reporter in Chicago, but I wanted to do a story on immigration, an issue that's, of course, is a hot-button issue today. And I convinced my news director to let me go to Mexico and go undercover and pose as a Mexican trying to get into the US. I knew it's a stretch, me posing as a Mexican, but my family's been here 7 generations in Texas, right? But I wanted to pose as someone who was trying to get into the US, right, from Mexico. I wanted to tell their story from the eyes of the immigrant. So I went undercover. I spoke only Español, puro Spanish, right? I dressed down. I looked the part. I was 26 years old. I found a coyote who, for $300, sold me a fake birth certificate and a fake Social Security card. He had no idea I was a reporter. He thought I was just another, young man trying to swim across. And he said, okay, here you go. And tonight, I'm going to put you in an inner tube, and we'll float across the Rio Grande from Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, to Laredo, Texas. So then I go and tell my camera crew where to hide in the bushes. And I said, okay, tonight at 7 o'clock, I hope I'll be coming across. I went back, met with my coyote. He tells me to take my clothes off, right? Because when you're swimming across the river, you have to put your clothes in a plastic bag so it doesn't get wet. Because if you get to the other side and the Border Patrol knows you're wet, you have an idea what you just did. So I was nervous because I was wearing a wireless microphone, right? And this coyote, and I was by myself. And the coyote, would get pissed if he saw I was wired, but he didn't care. I said, can I keep my T-shirt on? And Espanol. He said, okay, I don't care, it's fine. And he puts me on an inner tube, and I floated across the Rio Grande to Laredo. And I didn't stop there. I went back to Chicago, because remember, this is for the station in Chicago, where I got a job at a restaurant where we had heard that the owner of this restaurant had 7 undocumented workers working for him, and he had not paid them in 17 weeks. And every time they complained, he would say, hey guys, you get to sleep here in the basement. You get to eat all the food you want. You keep complaining, I'll call immigration and have you deported, which, as we know, is happening again 50 years later here today. So I went there and I got hired. Hablando puro español, I pretended that I just arrived from Mexico. He hires me as a dishwasher with a hidden camera. I'm bussing tables, working with those other 7 Mexican workers. And then at night, I went down in the basement and I slept with the other workers. And I still wonder what they must have thought, because by day I was one of them washing the dishes. And then at night, I pulled out a little camera and I started interviewing them about their lives. And through tears, they told me how they were being held against their will. Well, the next day, a few weeks later, the story goes on, WBBM in Chicago, my story about swimming across the Rio Grande, a 3-part series, and then working at that restaurant. When that story aired, the US government, before that, the next day I went to work with a camera, right, to interview the owner of that restaurant. Can you imagine how his mind was blown? One day I'm his dishwasher, and now I'm wearing a suit with a camera crew behind me, speaking fluent English, and we had to chase him through the parking lot because he didn't want to tell us what he was doing to those young men. But the story, the day after it aired on CBS Chicago, the US government moved in, they shut down the restaurant, they arrested the owner, and they got the Mexican workers the money they were owed and temporary visas to remain here while they worked. And then wow. And I knew then that those are the kinds of stories that I was destined to tell, and perhaps as a Latino reporter, I could tell better than anyone. I call journalism the candle in the darkness. Imagine this room, there's been an awful storm, God forbid, outside. The electricity's out, it's nighttime. We're all running around here, can't find the exits, can't see our hands in front of our faces. Well, the journalist, he or she, is the person with a little candle or the little flashlight, and they can shine it on the darkest corners of the room to illuminate injustice, to illuminate corruption, to illuminate civil rights violations, human rights violations. When journalism is done right, and we're not doing it right all the time, especially these days, but when journalism is done right, those are the stories we should be telling. That story won my first Emmy Award from Chicago, and ABC News was watching, and they hired me. So my dream came true to work at the same network where Geraldo Rivera had worked with the great Peter Jennings. And I remember one of the first stories I had for Peter Jennings, I was a rookie reporter, and I was in Nicaragua covering the civil wars in Central America. And I had an interview with the president of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, who, by the way, is the president again today, believe it or not, all these decades later. And I called New York and I said, Peter, getting an interview with Daniel Ortega was a big deal back then. So I promised them, and they said, wonderful, John Quiñones is going to have you on World News tonight. And then I hang up the phone with Peter Jennings, and the president's office, I'm in Nicaragua, right, calls again and says, we're canceling the interview. So then I'm shaking in my boots. I mean, my idol, Peter Jennings, he was like, James Bond, this guy. And I'm shaking in my boots in Nicaragua and having to tell him that what I had promised him I wasn't going to be able to deliver. And Peter Jennings gave me some words of advice that I carry with me to this very day. He said, listen, young man, this is going to happen again in your career where someone promises you something and then they don't deliver. But listen, don't worry so much about talking to the movers and shakers of the world. Politicians, presidents of countries, generals, presidents of corporations. John, don't worry so much about talking to the movers and the shakers of the world. Concentrate instead on talking to the moved and the shaken. In other words, talk to the real people, the real victims of war, the real victims of natural disasters. Those are the folks, because as a Latino, you can go to places in Latin America that even I, Peter Jennings, he said, even I can't do. Give a voice to people who don't have a voice. And that's what I try to spend my career doing all these years. I've been at ABC News 43 years. Can you believe that? Crazy. Woo! Yeah. I mean, I was 12 years old when I started, the youngest correspondent. No, and I loved it. And then I started doing this TV show called What Would You Do? And that's the one that's made, I think, more connections with young people especially, and older folks too, obviously, because it went viral on social media, my show, What Would You Do? When we started doing it, was during COVID for a while that my kids, right, called us and said, Dad, do you know you're blowing up on TikTok? And I said, kids started doing their own What Would You Do scenarios. And we're hoping the show will be back in a few months back again. But in the meantime, I'm doing 2020 and, of course, Good Morning America and all those other shows. But people often, I want to leave you with the people ask me, what's been your favorite What Would You Do scenario, right? And there have been so many. We've done 1,500 scenarios over 17 seasons. But one of my favorite is the one we did about what do you do if you're going down the sidewalk and the person in front of you collapses? Now, you don't know if they've had a heart attack or if they just fainted, right? And we did it at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning when all the folks are getting on the train to go work in New York. We did it in Newark, New Jersey. And first we did it with a well-dressed businesswoman. She's walking along, she faints. Immediately, people helped her. It was amazing. Even in Newark, New Jersey, who would have thought? And we were impressed. But then I said, wait a minute. What if instead of a well-dressed businesswoman, it's a homeless man who is elderly, disheveled, dirty, smelly, 88 years old, and he's carrying a beer can in his hand. So we found an actor to play that part. In New York, you can find all these actors, he's an elderly man who's a stunt artist, so he falls very convincingly. So he's walking, he collapses. When it's a homeless man, elderly man, 88 people step over him, and no one was stopping to help. One lady made the sign of the cross and kept walking. She said, well, this is a beautiful view of Newark. It's like the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? So we were like, wow, we were blown away. And I said, shoot, man, I guess if you're homeless, you're not going to get a lot of help. If you're a well-dressed business person, you will. So I'm about ready to come out when I come out with the cameras and tell everyone it's the show. But before I could get out there, I heard the tapping of a walking cane on the sidewalk. Tap, tap, tap. And then into the frame of the hidden camera comes this beautiful African-American woman who's stumbling along with a cane because she has suffered a stroke. And guess what? She's homeless too. And guess what? She's the one who stops and tries to help. And she starts asking people, excuse me, does someone have a cell phone to call 911 for this man? He's white, she's black. Not that that should matter. 37 more people, we're counting them, go by. No one is doing anything. She then did something we didn't expect. She gets down with her walking cane and she takes the beer can out of the actor's hands. She thought he was really homeless, right? And she stumbles over to the trash can and throws it away, as if she was thinking, maybe if we give him a little bit of dignity and people don't think he's a drunk, maybe they'll help. It didn't work. 42 more people are going by, stepping over him. No one is doing nothing, anything. The camera, the hidden camera, is really tight on her face, and she made a fist to the heavens, I remember, and she was like cursing God, saying, how can you allow this to happen? And then she stumbled down again, and we could hear this because the actor on the ground was wearing a wireless microphone, and she said, sir, she said to him, sir, I don't know your name, but I'm going to call you Billy. She said, Billy, my name is Linda Hamilton, and I'm homeless too, man. So don't you worry. I'm going to stay here until help arrives. And then finally, a woman stops and calls 911. Thank God. And in all the commotion, when I come out, people are excited that you saw they get crazy. We're having people sign releases. But in our commotion, we lost our hero. Linda Hamilton, the homeless woman who stopped to help, slipped away. But a few weeks later, we put the scenario on What Would You Do? And man, after it aired, we got hundreds of phone calls and emails and social media folks saying, who was that woman? We want to help, because we said she was homeless. We want to help Linda Hamilton. They created a GoFundMe page on Facebook, our viewers like yourselves, and they raised $10,000 for her. So now my producer called and said, John, we got to go find her and give her the money, right? How do you find a homeless person? So we put pictures of her all over train stations and homeless shelters and liquor stores all over Newark, New Jersey. And we said, have you seen this woman? And the Facebook page for her was called Touched by an Angel, the GoFundMe page where they raised all that money. So 2 weeks later, we found her, and my producer said, John, you got to come to Newark, and we got to show her the piece. So bring your laptop. So I sat on some church steps with Linda Hamilton, and I showed her the piece. And I said, Linda, remember the man who fell? And she said, yes, I remember. I said, well, you caused quite a scene, man. You caused quite a stir. So we got her the $10,000 in the bank. We got her an apartment that ABC provided for her. We got her medicine that she was supposed to be taking for her heart condition. And the thing that made her most excited, we got her own cell phone. So she was jumping up and down with joy like a 12-year-old. And I said, Linda, the next time you witness an injustice, you can call 911. But at the end of my interview, I said to her, Linda, people are calling you a hero. They're saying they put up touched by an angel. Do you consider yourself an angel or a hero? And she looked me straight on the camera. She goes, no way, John Quiñones, no way. She said, let me tell you what happened. She said, I think God put me on that corner, on that street, on that day, because he knew you were there with your What Would You Do cameras. And he wanted to teach people a lesson. And who better to teach that lesson than someone who has walked in the shoes of the homeless? So today I leave you with that message. The next time you witness any kind of injustice, and the little voice in the back of your head says, do something, remember the words and the actions of Linda Hamilton, this woman who was homeless, who had suffered a stroke, and yet she stopped to help a stranger on the ground, not because she was going to be on national television. She didn't know that. Not because she was going to get $10,000 in the bank. She didn't know that. Not because she was going to get her own apartment and medicine for her heart and her own cell phone. She did not know that. She did it because, as my dear mother Maria would say, her corazón, her heart, told her it was the right thing to do. Muchas gracias. It's been a pleasure being with all of you. Really great, man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Hold on.
John,
Yes?
on behalf of the Latino Leaders Network, we are proud to present our Eagle Leadership Award for your outstanding leadership and contribution to our community, to our nation, and to our world. Thank you. I still have a minute. As you know, good events don't happen accidentally. They require good planning and even better execution. I want to thank the event team led by Jana Donaire. See the team photo on the screen. Let's hear it for our Austin event team. Thank you. I also want to thank Alfredo Estrada and Latino Magazine for their media partnership. Our 2025 calendar of events concludes November 13th in Los Angeles. We will soon announce our 2026 calendar as well. As you depart, please consider, while others may try to tear us down, our responsibility is to build each other up. Don't you agree? This ends the 75th event of the Latino Leaders Luncheon Series, an on-time conclusion once again. Thank you.